Hello, guys. Thank you for joining into this session. We're already live. We have your instructor on the call. Today, we have Sajid. He's a seasoned design leader and he's an ex goggler and he works in Valiant and he's based, I think this is Vanian Systems, yes. And he's based in United States. So welcome, Sajid.
Thank you very much.
It's
Hi,
nice
everyone.
having you. Oh, yeah. So over to you. The class is all yours.
All right. Thanks, Amaka, for inviting me to share this presentation. And it's going to be a mix of presentation and live demo, so that you guys get a feel of how project management, or at least works for um, any place you will be working on in the future. So um, let me kick off by just giving you a slideshow. Is my window full screen to you guys?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So yeah, I think as a designer, you might be thinking like, okay, why do I need to worry about project management? And it's I'm more in a creative field. Somebody else should be taking care of, which is true most of the time. Whenever you would be working in a company or an organization, you would have be working with a lot of cross-functional stakeholders like engineers, product managers, data scientists, and other people from other disciplines. And there would be somebody responsible in the team who would be doing all of the project management work. But as you would see that even though somebody else might be doing that overall work, you would still be required to have the knowledge and understanding of the tool, so that you can go into the tool and update your task and create new tasks and assign people tasks and track progress and see how you are doing on the budgets and the timelines and things like that. So even though you might not be the one running this show, you would still be very much responsible for doing your part in these tools. And that's why it's very good idea to have familiarity with these tools that help you manage product projects and tasks and things like that. So as a designer, having a basic understanding of how these tools work and how projects are managed is definitely a good skill to have as a designer, so that wherever you go, you would be able to work very effectively with cross-functional teams. Um, so that's the basic of the reason why any designer should be familiar with. And once you get further into the ladder, like as you grow in your experience and you start becoming all the way from individual contributors, start getting into management and leadership roles in organization, you might be doing more and more of this yourself for your team, for your team's management, etc. So that way it would be even more useful then, because then you would be the one managing these projects on your own, right? So so let's start by understanding a typical project life cycle, right? Any project in an organization would have multiple stages through which it will go. And initially, it would be project initiation, from where everything begins. Then it moves into the planning phase, where people start doing the planning. And then once the plan is ready, things are assigned to people, then the execution phase starts, and this is where everybody is kind of doing their execution of the tasks that are assigned to them. And then while that is happening, somebody is responsible for monitoring the project, so that they can see, oh, is it on track, is it not on track, are we able to meet our deadlines and not. And then once the project, every task is done, then the project gets closed, right? Uh, this is a very abstract picture of how things work usually. So usually these tools, that initiation and closing are like the starting and the end of the project. But these tools project planning tools usually help you do the planning, execution, and monitoring in a very effective way. So what we would be covering today would be these three aspects of the any project. um, all right. So let's begin by first understanding like how projects are run, or even like what how are projects structured, right? So any project, the lowest common denominator of a project is a task that somebody has to do to eventually get the project done or completed, right? So a task is usually assigned to an individual, or uh, and that individual is then responsible for that task, and they need to make sure that that's done on time as assigned to them, right? Sometimes tasks could be assigned to multiple people because the task is big, there are multiple things involved in that task, and it's not possible for one person to do it, so there'll be multiple people working on that task. Now, a project is not just one task, there are many tasks, right? And then they are cross linked. Like one person here, for example, person B is assigned two tasks, person D is assigned two tasks, and then they are responsible for uh, multiple tasks, and then multiple tasks together kind of form a project. But even there is a little bit of more nuance to that, is that these tasks which are assigned to somebody could have a parent task. Like the task is so big that it needs to be broken down into subtasks, and then subtasks are then assigned to people, right? And that means the parent could be so big that there could be multiple subtasks like this, right? uh, Now, as you can see, the more bigger and bigger this picture grows, the complexity to manage and monitor becomes very critical. And this is why we need to have these tools that help us manage these projects, right? um, One other thing is that tasks are not just independent, right? Like they could have dependency on each other. Like for example, this task cannot begin until this task is done, right? For example, if there is no visual design done, then the engineer, front end engineer, cannot do the styling of the project, or the execution of the project, because design execute engineering is depending on the design to deliver something, or design is depending on project management to deliver some requirements, or one designer is dependent on another designer's work because it's a design system problem that is creating the dependency. So these dependencies also need to be mapped out in these tools, which we will also see how it is done. And then together, this whole chaotic picture creates a project, right? And usually, as I said, like you could be one of this person, right? Let's say if you're this person B, you're responsible for these two tasks. One task is independent of itself, and another task has dependency, which would mean that in this case you would have to then be collaborating with person D and E as well, to make sure that you are, because you are assigned to this task, and this task has a dependency on task C, so you would be not only working with D and E, who are your co-partners in this task, but you would also have to work with C, because C's task, your task depends on completion of the task for C, and you also work with A because you have another task assigned with A. So as you can see, it kind of helps you also get a picture of who all you need to collaborate with, how much complexity you have in your work, and other like kind of things. And then on top of this, you would have, as I said in the beginning, you would have like a project manager or a product manager or something like that, who or technical, they're called, everybody's called like different naming in different organizations, but somebody responsible for running this whole product and owning this whole project, and they would be the one overall doing the monitoring. But as an individual designer, you will be responsible for doing your part within this whole ecosystem, right? So to help designers and other people manage this complexity, we have a lot of tools in this world, where like there's a whole ecosystem around this, where tools like Asana, Trello, Notion, Jira, Space, etc. are kind of used. Um, Even like Microsoft ADO and Azure DevOps and other tools which are there, based on depending on which organization you join and what tools they use, you would have to adopt to that tool. But in general, they follow the same principles as abstractly described in the few slides that I just shared before, right? So overall, that's kind of the crux of it. So one, as long as you know the basics, you would be able to work in any of these tools. um, and for the sake of today's presentation, since we cannot cover all of these tools, we are going to talk about Asana as a tool and how it works, and how all of that which I was kind of abstractly showing you, we can experience it in a real demo, and through that um, we can see how things are done, right? um, so we'll jump into the Asana as a tool itself, but I would like to pause here and see if there are any questions anybody has at so far that we would want to cover.
So far, no questions yet, Sajid.
Okay, you will give a minute to ask questions if people have.
Yes, I'll ask. Guys, go ahead and drop your question in the chat. Yeah, they'll drop their questions. So you can go on. If I have questions, I'll just let
All
you
right,
know.
perfect. So let me switch over to the Asana as a tool, right? So this is what like the homepage of Asana as a tool looks like. So just to give you a basic structure of the application, like here at the top you have this create button through which you can create a task, create a project, create a new message. Even you can create a new team, or you can invite more folks to your team. So as your team grows, you can add more and more people. Right now I just created this demo account just for the purpose of the presentation, so I don't have anybody on the team. It's just me as a team. uh, but you can add more people, right? On the left side menu, you have the home screen. Then we will go into the other screens later, which is like my task screen and my inbox. And then you also have some insights that you can generate, like you can create reports on the status of your projects. You can look at the portfolio, you can create your own goals. And then here is a list of all the projects that you would be working on, or you can create new projects here. Basically, if you are in an organization and you are involved in more than one project, then you will have multiple projects listed here for you. uh, and then since I this is my project, this is here is my team. um, and then this homepage here has a lot of information right now, and I haven't really done anything. This is how the default comes, so I just wanted to show you how this tool works. So basically you can customize this homepage on what it looks like. So right now here it's showing all the tasks that I'm assigned, all the projects that I'm involved in, tasks that have been assigned to me. That, let's say right now there are no tasks. If there is some overdue task or tasks that I have completed, they will all be listed here. And then if I'm frequently collaborating with folks, they would also show up here as I grow the team. Uh, if you press this button here at the customization, you can change the look of the tool, how it looks. So you can customize it by giving some personalization to it. um, Choose what color you want it to be. We just keep it white for now, but you can add more widgets as well. Like as you see here, uh, you can add a notepad here, right? So you can bring a notepad here, right? You can reorganize this, like, oh, I want a notepad here on the side. And notepad would be a place where you would just be taking notes, regular daily notes, anything that you want to for yourself to manage your work, right? um, You can also drag in some goals and create some goals for yourself as well. So here you can add this goals card, and then you can add new goals here. You could say like mm, finish design by Friday, right? And you could give it a deadline, or maybe it could be something like public or a private. And if you want to have like long term goals, like um, mm, create new design system by the end of the year, right? And then you can also say, okay, this is H2, second half of 2023, I should be done with this, right? And then you can add more members to it. You can say, oh, who all I want these two partnership to partner with, right? On to complete this goal. And then you can have like percentage completion, or you want it to be numeric value, or basic different values you can set. So you can just set a goal and then update the progress of this goal as you go. Whenever you want to update, you can say how far I am in on this goal, right? um, so basically that's just like one of the things you can add for the customization. And then there's more stuff that you can add here. Basically we can go on. um, so that's about the homepage. I think so whenever you kind of come here, you would be able to see all of these cards and take some actions based on that. I could see like, oh, some tasks are upcoming, or is there an overdue task? I can basically act on those things. uh, there are more stuff here about like you could go ahead, and once you kind of sign up, and then you'll have to finish your profile, so you can go and complete your profile. You can set up projects, download the app, so that you can also, while you're on the move, you can continue managing and monitoring your projects. And then you can integrate other applications with it. So Asana would work with other tools like um, Miro, or Slack, and other tools which you can like look at the, if you click on the browse integration uh, page, you can see that it works with many other tools that you can connect with, right? So that anything you do in these other tools would also be then uh, you can create tasks from those tools and create update projects from those tools, etc. So that would be the basic overview of the homepage, right? um, then we would go into other stuff. Like here is my tasks list, right? It shows me what tasks I have created or are assigned to me. And there is like boards view and calendar view, but I want to first go into a project to kind of introduce you all to this. And meanwhile, while yeah, I'm kind of going over this, I'm kind of blindly, I'm not able to interact with it. So feel free to drop in questions, and Amaka will let me know if there are any questions coming up. So it can be a more of an interactive session as well, right? So let's look at one project, right? Here, I would go into this sample project I created. Let's say we have a project for creating a mobile application for a company XYZ, right? On the overview page, you will see who is the project owner, who are the other team members. If there are multiple team members working on this project, you will see here. Then if the project creator or the owner has created some goals, they would be listed here. If there are some resources like project briefs or design system guidelines, etc., they will all be kind of added here. If there are like research papers, documents, all of this. And then here you will see the key milestones once they are added, right? Milestones would be like critical points in the project that need to be monitored. uh, the very basic view of any project would be the list view. So when you come into this project, you would see that every project would be divided into these sections, right? This is say a section called requested, which means that this task needs to be done and somebody is requested this task to be done. Then any task that is in progress will be shown here. Any task that is in review will be shown here. And I purposely left this incomplete so that I could show it to you. So we have an untitled section here. Let's bring it to the very bottom of this. So you can just drag it and bring it to the bottom. And let's just call this uh, completed, right? So this would be a section where all completed tasks will be listed, right? So this is how a project list view looks like. Each of these section has these rows of tasks where there is a task title, there is a person who's been assigned to this task, what's the due date, there what's the priority, what's the task status, and I added this custom column called what's the division. Like, okay, is this a UX task? Is it a front end task? Is it a, a back end task? Is it a product requirements task? Right? It could be very specific. And then you have somebody who's, oh, there is a task, nobody has been assigned to this task, so let's just assign it to myself, right? So then you can see that it's very easy to assign tasks. Then you could also see when they are due. So the due date can be changed. If you click here, you could say, oh, this task started on the 4th, it is supposed to be complete today. This task is supposed to complete tomorrow. This task starts today and it ends on the 10th, so that's the deadline for this. And as you said, as I said, like here would be the priorities. You can change, somebody can update the priority, um, whether something is on track or at risk, or it could be off track, right? Like, okay, this is not going to happen as planned. Then somebody can easily take actions on these things. So this is how the task list looks like. If you go to the board's view, right? A board is another way of visualizing the same list, but in more like a Kanban fashion. I don't know if many of you have seen this or not, but some people really prefer this kind of a view where they get an overview of task where they are. You could move task from one board to the other board like this, one row to the other row, and then it kind of, it's very easy. Like when you are having a stand up meeting, every daily stand up, and you'll say, okay, tasks 2 who is assigned to Sajid, like, Sajid, what's the status on this? And Sajid could say like, oh, this task is in progress, I'm already working on it. Okay, let's make it progress, right? What about task 3? Oh, it's complete, let's put it done, right? So same, as soon as you do this, you will see that in the list view, these tasks have moved to the respective positions as well here, right? So task 2 is now in progress, task 3 is done, completed, but then you have to also say, oh, this is now on track because it's done, right? It was a high priority task, now it's done. It is in progress and still at risk. Yeah, that could be true, right? So you have to basically change those statuses. Uh, and then once you kind of have these tasks, you can always create a new task, or say like task 4, um, and it's again assigned to me. I don't have anybody else to assign it to, so yeah, I'll say now when you're assigning a due date, or the task date, it could be a single date, like, okay, this needs to be done on the 20th, right? And that's exactly the delivery date also for that. But a task may not be something that can be done in a day only, right? And it might need like a couple of days of work. So then you would click here on the start date, and then you would be able to choose a range. You can say, okay, it starts on the 11th and ends on the 28th. Like, it's okay, it's a 2.5 weeks of work, right? And then it becomes like a longer duration task. It's a medium priority. It's on track because we just assigned that, created it, and let's say it's a backend task, right? So that's how you would continue adding more tasks to any project. Uh, and then you will see that reflect here in the board. Okay. And So apart from the board and the list to you, which I just kind of explained, right? There are more views here you see, and they are kind of going to give you more detail and a different kind of perspective on your project. So once you go to the timeline view, now you are able to see all your projects in more like a visual timeline. This is the task that we just created, right? And it's a big task. It's going to take a couple of weeks to finish, and these are all the other small tasks that we are, and here we are showing where we are today, right? So a good use of this is like, oh, now I see that task, this test task is pretty close to its deadline. I don't, let me see how the status of that project is, right? And if I click here and if I see on track, yeah, then I'll be good. Like, okay, this is fine. Uh, but if it was instead like off track or at risk, then I would want to ask a question to this person. Like if it wasn't assigned to me, it was assigned to somebody else, then I would say like, hi, what's what's the status? Mm, are we going to make it, right? And then you post a comment here, and then this is where you can start basically having a conversation about every task, right? uh, and then uh, the person assume that they reply saying like, oh, this is fine, I'll make it even though it's at risk, we by tomorrow it will be okay, right? Something like that. And then you might not want to do anything, but otherwise this would be a place where you would do it, this kind of a conversation a little earlier, maybe like on the 5th you would have sent that message, and then you would have time to fix this problem. If not, you would either extend the timeline or you would move it to a different sprint and things like that, right? um, Now other thing which in the presentation I was also showing was dependency, right? How things are dependent on each other. Now let's say, let's just add a few other tasks, right? So let's just say task 5 and task 6. This is done on this time. This is to be done from this time to this time. Okay. Now, if you come to the timeline, we have two other tasks here. Uh, Now, if you see that these two tasks do not have any color, right? Now, why is it that we don't have any color? Because we haven't assigned any priority to them, right? So if you see, we have priorities have colors like green, um, orange, and purple. So here, when I am looking at the timeline, I'm actually seeing orange and purple because these are the colors that are assigned. Now, if assign green to one and purple to the other, I will see those colors assigned to these tasks as well, right? So now you can, so these colors are also not random. So when you're looking at a timeline, you are also looking at them based on the priority. But as you see in the list, we have some other colors also by status, right? So let's say if one is off track, two are at risk, and one is on track, right? If I was to look at this timeline, but I want to see the colors of uh, the status instead of priority. So by default, by Asana is the priority color. If I change this to status, now I will see the status colors. So I see two tasks have yellow status, one is green and one is red, which is the same as this column uh, that we see, right? Uh, you could also do it by division. If you were to do like, okay, who is owning this task? Is it a design task? Is it a engineering task? Is it a backend task? So this is another way for you to kind of choose how you want to see the colors. So this is just what I wanted to explain. But be, going back to the question of dependency, right? So let's say now task 6 is dependent on task 2, right? Or actually, let's let's say if it was, let's move the timeline, let's keep it here, right? Let's say task 6 is dependent on task 3, right? um, you could actually create a dependency like this by, you see, when you hover on these things, they have these endpoints on the left and right side. That's to kind of drag to create dependency, as it says, right? So I can drag it and then connect it to any of the tasks to create a dependency. So once I click and connect it to this task, it shows me here at the bottom left, it's saying task 6 is now dependent on task 3, right? Now, logically, it doesn't make sense for the timeline to be like this. So whenever there is a dependency, uh, task 6 cannot start on this date because task 3 is finishing on this date. So having a dependency like this immediately makes you say, okay, if there is a dependency, this task should start after this is finished. So I could keep it like this, and that makes sense that, okay, if it's dependent, then it should follow this task. Uh, you could also have task 5 depend on task 6, right? So then you create another dependency here where task 5 is dependent on task 6. Now we have created a structure where we know that, okay, uh, somebody who's working on task 5 will keep an eye on this task and see what's the status of this project, how are they doing, and is my task at risk because of them, right? And then they could use the task project uh, discussion board to follow up and make sure that they are not going to be blocked, etc. So in general, like, this is a quick overview. Just like if you want to remove any dependency, you just hover on the line and click the X, and it will remove the dependency. You can connect it back based on that. So this is how you would create dependencies. Now when you go back uh, to the list view, you can now see if you which task did you create. So we have task 6, which is dependent on 3, and somebody else is dependent on 6. So if we look at the task 6 details, so any of these tasks have this view, but you can also click this link here on the task row to open a detailed view of this task, right? So you click here and a side panel opens up here. Now the things that we saw were these dependencies that we just created are now showing here, right? So you can see that task 6 is blocked by task 3, and it's also blocking task 5, right? So now you can see that whatever dependencies we mapped visually are also shown here, and there is very clear indication of how these things are. It's dependent on one thing and something else is dependent on it, is kind of clearly mentioned here. Now let's say we were saying that this task is a pretty big task, right? It's a 2.5 weeks of task, or a 1 week of task. And this might not be a good way to chunk the task. Like, it's too big for one person to do it. And you might want to add subtasks to it. As you were saying, like, a task could be divided into multiple tasks. And then here is your opportunity to add more tasks. So you can say, okay, subtask 1 and subtask 2. So this could be something like, if it's a task was like, if the task, the title of the task was, say, design login screen, right? And then it could be like, design the login screen illustration, and design the login page for multiple platforms like mobile, web, right? And this could be two different skill set. Like, this illustration requires a visual designer to work on the illustration, and this is a UX designer who has to take multiple devices, create a responsive design for the page. And this could be two different people working on two different tasks. And you can now go into the details of these subtasks as well by like clicking it here. So now as you see that this was the main task, which is the design, the login screen, and now we are in the subtask of this, which is designing the screen illustration. And here now on the left side, you see this has become a collapsible menu. Now, if I open this, so now I can see that the login screen now has two subtasks listed here, right? And I can actually, just like I can open the side panel for the main task, I can also open the side panel for the subtask by clicking either here or from within the task, right? Now this could be assigned to somebody, right? This could have its own due date, uh, but then you have to make sure that that due date is not conflicting. Like if this needs to be done between April 15th and 23rd, then this due date has to be within that range. So maybe like by 18th I need the illustration, right? uh, so it could be like, okay, work from 15th to 18th on this, and the other subtask is, let's just work from 15th to 25th, right? Or 23rd, which is actually Sunday. So yeah, let's say 23, right? So this way you would now have the task and subtask defined, assigned. You can have it their own priorities and statuses, etc. Uh, one small little detail here is that now whenever like a task has subtask, it has this arrow which kind of indicates that you can open it to see subtasks, but it also lists how many subtasks are there. In this case we have two subtasks, so it kind of lists it here. And then if you click on this, it will take you to this place where it shows. And assigning tasks and everything is like super easy. Like you can even like assign it directly from here, so you don't have to like think about it. uh, and then once we are in the task, it's the same as the subtask and main task. They all have descriptions. You can have a conversation about these subtasks as well, uh, and do a lot of things just like any other um, project, right? So going back to all of these uh, the boards, you can see that uh, now small little details are kind of getting added here. Like this task which we had originally now has two subtasks, so now you can actually see those subtasks here, and you can open them and then see individually what those tasks are. And again, if you click here, you can see the same project, same task view can open up from here as well, right? In the terms of timeline also, now you see this task, which was only one task, now has this arrow that I can open to view the subtasks. So now it shows there are two subtasks, and they all both have their own timelines inside this, right? So those can be seen here as well. So now it kind of adds more details. Now imagine like all of these tasks are having their own subtasks, and like it can really become a clear, very with a lot of information. And that's where you can use like sorting and filtering to kind of have this view a little bit more. Instead of seeing all tasks, just show me incomplete tasks, or just show me completed tasks, right? So we did complete one task, but I think we don't have a, yeah, it's on today to April 10. So the timeline. Okay, we messed up. This is not complete until like you finish it as complete. So once, let's say you have this say that, oh, everybody has completed the task, project manager can come here and mark this task as complete, right? Once you mark it as complete, then it's complete. So if you say complete, there's a cool animation, it's done, the task is marked as complete. Now if you come to the timeline view, it shows like this task is complete. And if I go to only completed tasks, I can see that it's here, right? So, and then if I see only incomplete tasks, then it doesn't show me that task that's complete. And if I say all tasks, then it shows me this, right? So now that this task is complete, this person responsible for this task can say, oh, cool, I can now start designing my uh, login screen, and I'm unblocked. So this is kind of an overview of the timeline, board, and list, which are the three most commonly used views. But then you also have other views, which I'll quickly go over in the interest of time. Uh, is There's a calendar view, which is kind of gives you a whole list in terms of like a calendar timeline. And you could also similarly do colors based on status, right? You could do coloring based on division. You could do coloring based on priorities, which is the default. And then you can also do filtering, like same as I said here, like you could do in all incomplete, all complete, just my task. I don't want to see everybody else's task. Or you could even add filters like show task by assignee, like if or show tasks that were only created last week. Uh, Show only the ones which have a certain priority, right? If I want to see only priority medium, then I'll only see medium priority tasks, right? So all these filters are really super useful when you are working on a complex project and you have a lot of things going on. You want to be kind of reduce the noise that you see. This is useful. And then one other thing which we would not go into very much detail today because it is probably a topic on its own, is how to the do automation in Asana. Like you could use create forms, create task templates. You could, as I was saying earlier, you can connect other apps and say like how you something you can do in Slack and it will create a task in your Asana. You could create a form and somebody can submit a form and it will create or update a project task in Asana. So you can have like a very complex workflow. That is probably not the topic to be covered today, but someday if you are interested you should look into this and see how does automation work for Asana. And then there is a dashboard view, which kind of creates a nice data visualization for all of your projects dashboard. And it says, okay, there's one task was complete, seven incomplete tasks, there is nothing overdue. uh, there are total 8 tasks, and here out of those 6 are in requested and one task is in progress and one is complete. So that's kind of the overall, and all of them are assigned to me. But if there were multiple assignees here, you would see a chart here saying how many tasks are assigned to who, and then what's the completion timeline, how the project timeline looks. So it kind of gives you all of these nice visualization to understand. And then you can also add charts here. So you can add a priority chart saying like, okay, how I want to see how many charts are tasks are assigned by priority. And you can say, oh, there are 3 high priority tasks, 2 tasks with medium and one with low priority. Same as you see there are more charts that you can add. And you can add more like line diagrams and other formats of charts, etc. um, and then you have all these messages here, where you can send messages to all the team members, apart from the messages that you can already send and share in the chat that are for the tasks and project lists, subtasks. And then this would be the place where all the project files and other stuff would be listed. So kind of a very I would say a very fast and quick rundown of what Asana is and how you can use it, or any, for that matter, any other project management tool. The principles are the same, the interfaces are slightly different, and once you know one, it's easy to adopt to any other tool which kind of follows the same principle. As I was saying, it's basically subtask, tasks, project assigned to people. There is a deadline, there are dependencies, and then there are progress checks and statuses on each one of those. And it's more to kind of help everybody be on the same page at the same time through the use of these tools. So this is where I would like to pause and kind of this is where my presentation ends, but happy to leave some minutes for conversation and questions if anybody has.
Yes, thank you, Sajid. Yeah, we have some questions here, so I'll just be.
Absolutely. Cool.
Okay, so I'm displaying them on the screen. Can you see the question on the
Uh,
screen?
I would say just learning this tool won't make you a project manager, because it's not like project management me involves a lot of other things. Like you need to understand how different pieces of the puzzle fit together. Like if a software engineer needs to finish a task and they come and say it will take 3 weeks to do the task, would the project manager have enough knowledge to say whether that's a valid amount of time to ask for a project task to be completed? Or are they underestimating or overestimating the effort? For that, they need to have some knowledge of the product, some knowledge of the some technical knowledge of the system, to understand uh, what's going on, how certain things are connected with each other. To create dependencies, they would need to understand how an engineering task depend which engineering tasks depend on design task, or which design tasks depend on product management requirements and stuff like that. So unless they have like the domain knowledge and a good understanding of the the needs and the requirements, they would not just become an any tool for that matter is just a way to help you do your job, but it doesn't kind of make you a, a designer or a programmer. Like if somebody knows how to use Figma, does it make them designer? I don't know if that's true.
All right. Okay, so the next one.
You can do a free trial. So they have a 30-day trial. As you can see in the top right corner of my screen, it says 29 days left, because I just started this new trial yesterday for the purpose of this presentation. So you can get a 30-day free trial, and then after that you can decide whether you want, if this is the right tool for you, you want to continue using it, or uh, then you can go into any paid subscriptions that they offer. Yeah, so I think, as I said, like a project manager would be a person who would be able to put the big picture into this tool, right? Everybody else needs to know how to use the tool and how to update their task and do their part of the piece puzzle. But project manager is the person who is making sure that, as I said, like as soon as like these projects become big, like there are 20 people on a project with 50, 60 tasks, each having like 3 or 4 subtasks, it won't be easy to monitor and manage on a daily basis. So project manager will be doing that part, where they will be saying, okay, overall, how is the project health looking like? What are the things going on? Which are the critical items? If there is something blocking, then the project manager's responsibility to make sure how to unblock it and things like that. And individual designers and engineers, they would be doing their part, but they wouldn't be like trying to solve the whole big puzzle. So I think that's like the very specific task that project managers do, and then there's a very specific part that the others do. But everybody needs to come into the tool and update their stuff. So that's why you need to have the understanding of the tool and be able to use it, but not be the one kind of orchestrating the whole project. No, I think, as I said, like even once you can even use it as an individual. If you just want to manage your own personal life, you can manage it through this, right? It doesn't have to be a project manager. If you want to say like, okay, I want to manage my personal finances using this, and I want to make sure like, oh, this bills is due on this date, I need to pay this payment, I need to go finish this work on this date. Like all of that you can do here as well. But on in terms of like work, project managers are using these tools like to kind of make their life easier. But um, they this can be used by anybody. Like as I was saying, like when you grow be higher in the role, like when you become like design managers or design directors or VP of design, you might want to have your own uh, kind of a project management where you are saying, okay, how do I manage my own organization, right? Like within the company you could have like, okay, how do I do my team management, how do I do my other stuff related to um, like career guidance to my team, doing strategy and vision work for the team. Or you might have like multiple people on your design team working together to make that happen, where you have somebody responsible for doing research and somebody responsible for making a presentation deck, somebody's making um, a video, somebody's doing audio recording, and all of that could be happening. And then you want to run your own mini project that could be done using this tool. So it's basically an organizer. Anybody can use it and in any way that they want. Mm, I'm trying to understand the question here, but when you say the key elements, I would say any project plan is anything about like what is the end goal of the project, right? And how you want to break it down into smaller chunks to make that happen. So any project plan is like a breaking down a big task into smaller tasks and maybe even sub tasks. And that's what these kind of tools allow you to do. And then the plan is like what needs to be achieved by when, by whom, and then who. You break it down and then say like, okay, chunk it down into manageable parts, identify the dependencies, what are the dependencies, and then assign it to people, and then create like a plan that's feasible. You want to also make sure that any project plan is done in consultation with people who are responsible for fulfilling that project, right? Because if you are a product manager and you come in and say, oh, we have a website to build, we have 3 days, let's just do it, and you'll say like, no, it's not possible, nobody can work that fast, or we don't have enough people to do this. So you will have to, any project plan is also involves doing like the pre-planning, where you take, once you have these tasks, you kind of go through those tasks with the team and say, do a t-shirt sizing of the task, like small, big, medium, large. Or you could even do like in terms of uh, sprint sizing, like how much you want to assign in terms of person sprint, like it will take one person one sprint to finish this task, etc. And based on that, you eventually come and decide this timeline and see what is feasible in that given timeline, and then plan it. So multiple parts to the plan, which all come together eventually in something that the team tracks and monitors. No, I don't think so. There is no limit. uh, Yes, it does allow sharing, and you can give access to the boards and tasks to people. Um, Let me see if you're in this here, there should be a link, copy task link. You can use that to send it to somebody, and they'll directly get tasks. Or you could kind of go here, and probably it's not here, but yeah, you could just take the link from here and uh, send it to somebody, and this will be um, directly access to that task from a URL. So you can do that. Mm, it depends. Like some tools give, as I said, like free trials for some time, uh, but I don't have on top of my head right now. Uh, but something like Notion, which is usually free for a substantial amount of time. I think it has some limitations, but usually Notion is the one where you still should be able to use it without paying. Um, but you might have to see like how to do project management in Notion, because mostly like Notion is like a mind mapping tool or something like that, which kind of gives you develops helps you develop your own second brain on the web. But you could look into Notion as an option, but other tools are definitely paid. Yes, I think they need to at least understand the pieces of the puzzle. Like uh, project managers do tend to have not they're not just herding the sheeps, right? Like they are there because they have the domain expertise as well. So without a domain expertise, it's very difficult for a product manager uh, to kind of manage the team and organize the tasks and understand the dependencies and how things affect each other. And yeah, it would be very difficult for somebody without a domain knowledge to run projects. So that's what I've seen in my career. All the project managers uh, have had a substantial amount of domain knowledge.
So that's the last question we have here, Sajid. Thank you so much for this session. It was
Absolutely.
insightful, and I learned a lot of things from the session as well.
Thank you, and appreciate the time. And I'm hopeful so it was useful to you guys. And if you have questions, feel free to let me know. Connect with me on the LinkedIn or write to me. I'll be more than happy to answer.
Okay, yes. That being said, I just dropped Sajid's LinkedIn handle on the chat, so you can go ahead and connect with him on LinkedIn. And also, okay, yeah, you can go ahead and connect with him on LinkedIn. And I also, Sajid will be part of one of the mentors we'll be having at the end of the program. So can't wait to have you. Thank you so much, Sajid.
Absolutely. Welcome.
All right,
Thank you very
so
much. Have a good one.
yes. All
Bye-bye.
right, guys. So bye, everyone. Good
Bye.
morning, good afternoon, good night. Bye.
Appreciate it. See you.
Bye. So, guys, if you have not yet followed us on if you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you're yet to follow us on Twitch, go ahead to follow us on Twitch. Basically, just follow us on all our social media handles. To get those handles, go on the Discord servers, use slash social media. You see all our handles. Follow us on every social media channel. So bye guys. And also we have Q&A for tomorrow by 9 p.m. So please be there. It will be in your best interest to be in that Q&A session tomorrow. So thank you guys. Have a lovely morning, afternoon, or night. Bye everyone.